Thank you once again for joining us all today, and thank you for greeting us with an overwhelming response yet again for each of our webinars. It is so heartening to see so many of you joining us today. And what is even more heartening is to see so many people exchanging ideas, experiences, and even resources on the Eblity community platform. And if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, so maybe you're not yet part of one of our social media communities. So do keep an eye on your inbox because we'll be sharing links to join our social media communities soon. And maybe then you could become a part of the community and learn from it, benefit from it, and help others to benefit from it. Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk a little bit more about Eblity. Eblity is an organization focused on kids with special needs and slow learners. It is basically a platform that helps schools to create personalized plans for students, and it connects all the stakeholders involved, such as parents, special educators, therapists, and other service providers to be able to offer best possible interventions. That was about Eblity. Now, let us understand how can Eblity help you. So, well, for starters, it will help you with resources. As you can see on your screen, you will be receiving 2 emails from Eblity Customer Success Team. One with the login credentials for your Eblity account. And the purpose of the second one would be to inform you that the resources for this particular webinar has been updated under your account library. Let me explain you a little bit more. What you need to do is you need to click on the login button that you could see on any one of these emails. Once you click on the login button, you'll be redirected to this screen. Here, you need to sign in using your credentials, that is, your username and password. Remember, you would be receiving these details in the inbox of the email that you have used while registering for any of the Eblity webinars. Okay, so once you have signed in, you could see webinar resources under your account library. And once you click on view resource, you would be able to see resources from this particular webinar and all our previous webinars. And you can not just see these resources, you can also download few of them. Isn't that interesting? I hope you do log in and benefit from it. And yeah, let me specify. When I talk about resources, I mean the entire webinar recording, the slide deck of the webinar, the Q&A document that includes answers to all the questions that were asked before the webinar and also during the webinar. Along with it, some additional resources suggested by the speaker. So yeah, do log in and benefit from it, learn from it, and share with the community. Okay, so like all other times, this is the poll time. So you'll be shortly seeing a poll on your screen. I will need you all to answer that poll quickly for us. This will help us understand our audience better and also help plan better content for you all. And while we wait for all of you to answer that poll, I would like to repeat that this webinar is being broadcasted live on Facebook, on our Facebook page, that is www.facebook.com/Eblity. So if you have friends who couldn't join us for the webinar today, do share with them that they can attend the webinar live through our Facebook page. And also you can share it on your timeline so that more people can benefit from it in the future. Got it? Looks like most of the people have answered the poll. So I'm going to end the poll. Thank you so much. And now, may I take the privilege to introduce our speaker for the day, Mrs. Tejashree Mujumdar Gambhir. She has been extensively working with individuals with ASD and their parents to promoting ABA and other evidence-based therapy approaches for over 11 years now. She has also served as a panel consultant for autism and ABA experts and as an inclusion facilitator. She also has experience as a trainee observer at NHS Leicestershire, UK, in terms of designing and implementing effective and comprehensive therapy plans. So we are so glad to have you here with us, Tejashree. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Swati.
Yeah. So without making our audience wait any further, let's get started. So over to you, Tejashree. I'll request you to take over.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope everybody can see the slide.
Yes.
And yeah, I thank Eblity and all the participants, and I hope that I'll be able to share what I've learned through my experience, through my journey so far. This is just a tiny bit, which I would love to share more as well on the days to come, on the paths to come. And yeah, so thank you, and let's begin. So out of all the topics, I first wanted to choose this one because there is definitely much more positivity associated with the word itself, positive reinforcement. So let me tell you how I started my journey. When back in 2009, I was still learning. I had just freshly passed out and I was working under my mentor, and I was working with my first case, and not case, my first child. And the student was having ADHD and also autism. So the symptoms were severe, and the symptoms were such that the child could not really focus on anything. He would either run over here and there or would be hitting others, and he also had many other behavioral challenges, which included biting self and others. Okay. So biting others was more to do with his not being able to communicate what he wants, what is happening with him, and many other reasons. The biting self was many times because he used to bite his hand. Okay, so what used to happen was that there used to be some tingling sensation. We call it sensory needs or sensory issues. So a painful tingling sensation that used to come in this part of his hand, and he would, whenever it would appear, he would bite severely. And what would happen was that his hand was all black and blue. So similarly, because of all these disturbances, which would come often, he wouldn't be able to share his attention into the learning processes. So another senior person who had been working with children with autism and special needs told me that you should apply ice pack over there, and you should teach him to ask for applying ice pack whenever the tingling sensation arises. So this could be done using positive reinforcement and other techniques from ABA. So I kind of applied all those things, and I taught him to ask for the ice pack in a visual format, and also let's say non-verbally, because the child could not speak. So whenever he did that, whenever he pointed it out, I would apply the ice pack, and that was actually naturally reinforcing because the tingling sensation would go away. And also I provided lots and lots and lots of positive reinforcement in terms of I would high five, I would cheer for him, and also I would present a food treat to him, which was his favorite one. And this actually was working. And this gave me a very enlightening moment that, oh, this works. So basically what happened was that after that, my belief was put in a right place, that positive reinforcement can be one of the very effective tools. So after that, whenever that tingling sensations appeared, the child would do the similar thing. The child would indicate, I would apply the ice pack, and there was no more biting to self, no more biting to me or others. So gradually his focus into learning also was increased, and there was definite amount of positive learning, positive behaviors that were added to him, and I was really happy. So this is how my journey started, and I would definitely like to share all the techniques about it so that you can apply them readily with your students, with your children, and you can share them with the people you love. Okay, so let us go ahead now. Okay.
Wow, you guys made a big mess.
Yeah, before I go to the video part, this is how I would like to go ahead. Okay, we will talk about a little bit of definition and overview, how positive reinforcement came into place, a little bit of history about it. So then we will go over to the types of reinforcement. Along with, I would like to talk about a few terminologies, key terminologies that are there. Since positive reinforcement comes from behavior therapy and applied behavior analysis, there are a few terminologies associated with it, which I think you should be familiar with. So that will be really helpful. After that, we will be talking about why do we want to use positive reinforcement? Why in the first place? Okay. Then we will be talking about 8 tips, okay, from my side that will make your learning experience, your teaching experience, next teaching experience with your children really, really effective. Okay. There are these pointers that I want to share with you so that you keep those in mind and you can effectively apply reinforcement, okay, for the learning, for the teaching of positive behaviors. Okay. After that, I would like to talk about useful resources on positive reinforcements, along with other, in the classroom settings, let's say, or particularly with ADHD children, or many other scenarios where probably communication can be increased. Okay. So a lot of other things I would like to explain in terms of useful resources. There are references from my side that you would like to, I would like to share with you. And this is how we will go about. Okay. Now I would like to share with you a few videos that we have been taking from the YouTube. So there are these videos wherein there are children, there is instructor, and something is happening. Okay, I would like you, whenever you're watching the video, all the 3 videos, I would like you to observe a pattern, whether you observe any pattern over there. Okay.
Whoa, you guys made a big mess. If you guys clean up, you get a sticker. Do you want a sticker? Start cleaning up. You want a sticker? Come on. Good job. What did you guys get? Sticker.
Okay, so what did you observe in this video? Okay, there are these beautiful children who are in a teaching scenario, probably in their kindergarten room, and they have made a big mistake. They have made a big mess, and the teacher has given them an instruction of cleaning it up, and she has also told them that when they clean it up, they will be receiving stickers. All right. So the instruction has been delivered. All right, clean up, and you'll get stickers. Okay. They do it, so the cleaning up is done and the children are receiving stickers and they're so happy about it. Okay, now let's go to the next one.
Look at me. Good looking. High five.
As you saw, the SD was the instructor saying, "Look at me." The response was the student looking at the instructor. And the stimulus reinforcers were the instructor saying, "Good looking," giving a food treat and high-fiving the student.
All right, now this was a very specifically designed teaching scenario. And the child is with special needs, and the teacher, her instructor, has given a very specific instruction of "look at me." Okay, so the teacher delivers, the instructor delivers the command "look at me," or the instruction. Now the child looks at the teacher, and just when the child looks, just when the child turns towards the teacher, gives eye contact, then the instructor presents with high five, the food treat and everything, and she is reinforcing. She's actually building up that behavior. Okay, now let's go to the third video. Okay, this is another setting. This is another very specific teaching setting. This is called the discrete trial. The previous one was also discrete trial, which is also another terminology from ABA. Now what's happening over here in the other video, the last one, the instructor has a specific goal in her mind. Okay, she wants to teach the child how to draw standing lines. Okay, probably she has told the child, probably she has already taught the child how to draw standing lines, and upon her instruction the child is drawing standing lines. Okay, so once the child has done what she has told him to do, she's clapping for him, she's saying yay, good job and everything. In the next part of the clip, the instructor wants the child to identify a particular picture, a particular animal. Okay, she has prompted the child in this video, and with her help the child has actually given the correct answer. Okay, she had asked him touch pay, so the child is touching the correct picture and the instructor is clapping for him. Okay, so this is the third part, and now let's go over to the discussion of the videos. So once we have, like, while we have watched all these videos, there is definitely a connection, and there is definitely a pattern that you must have seen. Okay, so there is a specific goal over here in the mind of the instructor, particularly, let's say, eye contact, or let's say teaching a particular skill of drawing a standing line, or identifying a particular animal or something like that, or even a particular behavior like cleaning up. Okay, so after all of these behaviors, some of them were like some of the children did the behaviors accordingly, like on their own. So they didn't need any help or any prompts or anything. But say in some scenarios, there was some help needed from the teacher's side. But even though the teacher gave the help, there is also a completion of task that has happened, okay, by the child, from the side of the child, and the correct response is there. Okay, and for every correct response, after every time that the child has put in effort, after every time the child has shown correct response with or without help, for the correct response for the expected behavior, the instructor or the teacher has given something. Okay, either in the form of something physical or tangible, let's say, in terms of, let's say, a child receiving food treat. Okay, that was a tangible one, a physical thing that was received by the child. In the other example, there was star sticker, which was received by the children on the hand. Okay, so either in the form of something physical, something tangible, something that can be seen, that can be experienced, touched, that was received by the child, which was very happy, which was very pleasurable for the child. In the other scenarios, there was something also added in the environment. Let's say the teacher was very happy and the voices were very cheerful. The teacher was not giving anything as such, giving away anything as such, but she was clapping. Okay, she was saying good job. She was smiling. Okay, and that seemed to bring the difference. Okay, after every correct behavior, either something was given physically or received by the child which could be experienced physically, or there was something that the child could actually see, observe from the instructor in the environment, which was very happy, which was making the child very happy. So what was happening over here is that there was some addition that was made to the person or the environment, and that is nothing but positive reinforcement. Okay, so with this note, let's go to the next slide of the definition. So as we saw in the videos, positive reinforcement involves the addition, okay, of a reinforcing stimulus, okay, and after following every positive response or every correct behavior, so that the behavior will happen again and again in the future. So in all the previous videos when we saw, uh, next time when the teacher is there and if the children are liking the stickers, let's assume that the children are liking the stickers, and the instructor is giving this instruction that the teacher says that, okay, now let's clean up and you're going to get stickers. So next time it is likely that the children will actually behave that way. Children will actually follow what the teacher is going to say. When next time the teacher is going to tell the child to draw a standing line, and after that when the child is receiving, let's say, a cookie, his favorite cookie, so definitely he is going to try more and more whenever the next time instruction comes, that he will try more and more to draw the standing line in order to get the reinforcement or the cookie. Okay, so reinforcement is something that ensures that the future will happen again in the behavior will happen again in the future. What's happening over here is it's the addition of, let's say, an object or a toy or a food item or an activity that is making the child put in more efforts next time the instruction is given, right? So when a favorable outcome or event or reward occurs after an action, that particular response or behavior will be strengthened. When this is going to be repeated after multiple trials, or let's say it happens 4 times, 5 times, six times, the child kind of understands that, okay, this is something that I like, and I may actually put in more effort so that I will get cookies, or I will get, let's say, bubbles or something like that. So this is how a behavior gets strengthened. And next time, the likelihood of the behavior being repeated is increased. Okay, so that is the main function of positive reinforcement. Um, Positive reinforcement actually happens sometimes deliberately, like in the examples that you saw in the video. Teacher has deliberately put positive reinforcement of a cookie or, let's say, sticker at the end of whatever she wanted to be done. But at times it also happens naturally. Like in the first example I shared with you, the boy actually got relieved from the pain, and it was naturally reinforcing for him. So next time, whenever the pain was there, in order to get rid of the pain, the child actually put in efforts in terms of pointing to the ice pack. So this is how naturally also it happens, and it is also deliberate in terms of learning or teaching scenarios. Okay, let's go ahead and see some more examples. In the day-to-day life, what happens is that many times we use them, teachers, as parents, or even in our day-to-day life, we use them without even knowing it. So it's happening naturally to us. So for example, a boy is getting a candy after helping someone. So the mother or the father becomes very happy and offers him a candy after he has helped the sibling or somebody else. Like in a natural setting, very natural setting that happens at home is that the baby is taking his first steps and everybody is clapping and the baby is very, very happy and is energized to take more steps. Okay. A girl probably gets a hug from her loved one when she's helping him picking up probably an elderly when she's helping him. Or let's say in a daily life scenario, we go to a shop and we buy 2 soaps and we get a third one free. So next time, whenever we are going to the shop to buy soaps, it is there in our mind that probably if we buy the same soap, we might get the third one free, and that will work for our benefit. All right, so this is how it is also implemented on us, where we are the ones who are being used the positive reinforcement upon. And as you saw in the previous videos, probably in multiple settings it happens, learning settings it happens, that children with special needs often receive positive reinforcement in terms of food or toys or stickers, or let's say saying good job or high five. So all these things happen when the teacher tells the child to do something and the child does it, and he gets a high five from the teacher and everything. So all these are examples of positive reinforcement which happen in our day-to-day life and also in the learning scenario. It happens in the classroom, it happens elsewhere. So it's very, very fairly common. Okay, so And one thing is common in all these examples, that you will see that whatever reinforcement the child is getting or the individual is getting is pleasurable for him. So that the next time it is very likely that he will actually do that behavior so that he can experience that pleasurable moment again. Okay. Uh, let's move towards a little bit of overview and background of positive reinforcement. As I mentioned in the beginning, positive reinforcement is one of the four main pillars that are there in ABA, the applied behavior analysis. You may have heard about applied behavior analysis as a very popular teaching method or an intervention approach that is used with children with autism most of the times, and also other special needs, related special needs. What happens in ABA is ABA is based on behavior therapy principles. And along with positive reinforcement, there are three more important pillars of it. So uh, positive reinforcement being the first and foremost. The second one is like the reward reinforcement or the positive reinforcement is the first one. The other is prompts, that is the help being provided to the child. The third one is shaping, and the other one is the last one is the task analysis. So we can probably skip the other three. So combinedly, all these four are used in a good synchronization to teach particular behaviors to children with special needs, especially autism. So what happens is that with the help and the techniques from behavior therapy principles, there are specific goals set for the children, and with a very systematic plan, with a very systematic use of techniques from ABA, these goals are carried out and the teaching sessions are carried out. And in terms of learning, the child learns from a particular goal setting, different various life skills, starting from communication, socialization, and many other. So this is where it comes from. So a lot of terminologies are very commonly used in ABA that I'm going to use right now. So basically what happened was that behaviorism is a school of thought in psychology that came up in early 20th century. Okay, there were many behavioral psychologists. Watson was one of them. Skinner was another one. Thorndike, Pavlov, all these behavioral psychologists, they were very much into deriving principles from how animals behave or organisms behave in particular settings. So what they did was that they designed a particular series of experiments on animals mainly to get an idea of how they learn in particular events, in particular situations, and how it can be applied to our day-to-day life, our learning. Okay, so J.B. Watson was the first one who came up with this idea in 1928 that whatever principles that have been derived from the behavior, the experiments that were conducted, those could be applied to directly to infant care, child development, children with special needs, learning theories, and many more such aspects. So he came up with all these ideas. He wrote down many papers on it. So this was further taken along with the journey, and many other scientists, many other psychologists contributed in it. So these are a few experiments that I'm not going to talk very much into detail about it, but Pavlov's classical conditioning experiment was one of the benchmarks into behavioral therapy principles and all those other approaches that are based on behavior therapy. So what he did was he had actually produced food to a dog, and in a series of attempts, and before presenting food he actually used to ring the bell. And later on, he removed food. He only rang the bell, and still a physiological response was seen from the dog that the salivation was happening. So let's get let's keep the details aside. What could be derived from this experiment was that the responses, even physiological responses, were linked to stimulus, and they could be paired. So probably something that would naturally bring a response or naturally bring a physical response, probably some other item which can be paired with that original item, and that same item the other item can also bring the same response. So just just to give an idea that bell actually has nothing to do with the salivation, but still it got the same response. Okay, so responses can be linked to particular things or stimulus. Okay, Thorndike came in and he actually did the very famous cat experiment, in which the cat actually learns via trial and error. He presses the lid and the door opens, and he has the cat actually follows a particular, let's say, path. And over a period of time, the cat learns it to press the lever quickly. Okay, the less the time period, the quicker the cat will get to the food which is waiting outside. Okay, so stimulus again is going to be linked with response, and over a period of time the organism learns that certain behaviors, when we do certain behaviors, certain pleasurable responses can occur. So that's what the learning happened by the cat, and this could be really directly applied into the principles of learning that we do.
Tejashree, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to tell you that we are running short of time and we are just 10 minutes away from beginning the Q&A segment. So yeah, just wanted to tell you that. Sorry to interrupt.
Thanks so much. So B.F. Skinner was someone who actually came up with operant conditioning, and he was the pioneer in terms of bringing verbal behavior, livelihood analysis, and all these things into place. So he was the one who designed this experiment wherein a rat would press a particular lever and a box of string would open, and certain other lever he would press and he would get a shock. Okay. So this is where the organism learned that we do something and the consequence. So he learned that a particular button is not supposed to be pressed, but a particular button is supposed to be pressed in order to get treated. So he learned that consequences decide the occurrence and learning of the organisms. So
Hi. There is some disturbance from your end. Could you check your settings? I'm so sorry to disturb you once again. Our audience has been complaining about some disturbance.
The slide is there. The slides are there.
Yeah, the slides are there. Everything is there, but there's some disturbance. Okay. Yeah. Can you try again?
Is it better now?
Okay. Can you mute and unmute once again?
Okay.
Yeah. Try speaking to us again.
Is it better now?
I doubt. So maybe you would want to join the meeting again?
Or maybe let's try to, stop the video.
Yeah.
On Tejashree's side and see if that helps.
Yeah. Maybe you could turn off the video and continue with the webinar.
Is it okay now?
No, turn off the video.
Is it okay now?
No.
No, not yet. Yeah. So maybe you want to leave the meeting and join it again. Hi, dear audience. Apologies for the technical glitch we are facing. We will try and solve it as soon as possible. Meanwhile, you could keep your questions coming in the chat box, and we are taking note of each of the questions that is being asked by you, and we will answer each one of them. So stay rest assured, and while we deal with this situation, I hope we are able to resume soon.
Am I audible now?
Yeah. Could you try using headphones maybe?
Sorry.
Yeah, I could see a lot of questions coming in the chat box. Thank you so much. While we wait for Tejashree, it will just hopefully take not more than a minute to resume. Maybe you guys would like to enjoy some music.
Okay. You want me to? I should switch to headphone. Okay. Yes. Yes. Hello.
Yeah,
Better?
Tejashree is back.
Hello.
Yes, Tejashree, we can hear you. Maybe you would want to resume. Apologies, audience, for the glitch.
Very sorry. Yeah, so we will resume with the type of reinforcements now. There are mainly two things that I would like to remember. I would like you to remember. Okay, so there is positive reinforcement and there is negative reinforcement. There is also another terminology that I'm going to come to later in some time. Now, when we're talking about positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, a lot of confusion might be associated with it because when we hear positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, we kind of get confused. Okay, what is all this? So when I'm saying these words, keep in mind one thing. Don't think of it as quality words or attributes. So think of them as mathematical terms. So when I'm saying positive, you have to remember plus. When I'm saying negative, you have to remember minus. So positive reinforcement is basically adding a factor to increase a behavior, all right? So when we give a toy to the child or when we give a high five to someone, that is adding something, an action or object or event that is actually helping the behavior go up. So that is positive reinforcement. So food items or high-fiving, saying good job are all examples of positive reinforcement. And negative reinforcement is the opposite of it, wherein you take away something that is causing distress to the child, or something negative that can be removed, any factor that can be removed so that positive behaviors go up. So in the previous example, of the first example that I gave of the boy, the pain was removed when we applied the ice pack. So that was kind of negative reinforcement. So in the other picture over here, when the child is doing her homework nicely, the mother is actually saying to the child that, okay, you can skip doing your chores today because you did your homework nicely. So she removed the chores from the child's daily routine. And that is how the child is being reinforced to do more and more homework in her, assigned time. So these are the examples of reinforcement. Okay, so remember, positive reinforcement is adding things to the environment or the person, and negative reinforcement is basically removing, factors from the environment that would lead to positive behaviors, increase in the positive behaviors. Okay, so types of positive reinforcements are also tangible, as I've been saying, that these could be activity, a food item, a toy, something that the child likes really, really, really well. Okay. Then there are social reinforcement that we can use. Verbal praise is one such example, where we say excellent, great job, well done, high five, and all those things come under verbal praise and non-verbal, that is the social praise or social reinforcements, where a pat on the back, giving a thumbs up, or saying yay, or giving a hug, or all those touch prompts and everything can come under non-verbal social reinforcements. So all these are supposed to be increasing the behavior, where the child gets a feedback that he's doing a good job, a correct job. All right. Next is, there are many more other systems, such as tokens, token systems, or star charts and everything. This is where you assign particular number of stars or particular number of tokens to a particular target behavior. For example, you want a child to finish, let's say, a particular task in terms of stacking a tower, and the child is putting in effort to put in first one, but you don't want to give the reinforcement right away because you don't want to make the child dependent on the reinforcement. And these systems, tokens and star charts, help to build that independent behavior, and they help us to reduce the dependency on the reinforcement. So what you do is, you instead of giving the food reinforcement right away, probably you can tell the student in the beginning only that after receiving 3 stars on your chart, you will be receiving a cookie. So let's say he stacks up the towers and gets a star. He beats up whatever you have put in front of him, and he does other chore and he earns other 2 stars. And now he has earned 3 stars, as you have promised earlier. He can get his cookie. So this is how we are building a delay in terms of producing reinforcement. We are not giving him right away for every correct behavior, but we are also making him patient enough. We are teaching him to wait for a little longer time, and this is how we can also increase the time eventually, so that the child learns to perform series of tasks and then get a reinforcement. Okay, so I would like to share with you something that I created for a student of mine who was a high functioning autistic child. And this is basically a visual that says, I am working towards God. So this is how the left hand side image is actually how it looks when it is blank. So there are these places for the stars you want to stick up, and the bigger blank corner is where you want to put in what you want the child to work towards. So in the next image, you can see that I had put in that I am working towards a library book, because that was his favorite thing, and that for that he actually used to do anything. I'm working towards a library book after I finish my maths paper. So I was there with him till he finished his maths paper. There were 5 questions, and after finishing each and every question, I added up stars in the bracket. So he also got an idea that how much stars are still remaining, how much time is still there for him to finish up the task and everything. And after the 5 stars were done, after the paper was finished, he got his library book, and this is how he actually finished his maths paper. And next time the exam was there, I was ready with this card again. So this is how you can also create your own visuals. This is another star chart. This is another visual that I've created for another student of mine who was with ADHD. So I had picked up very simple, basic 3 tasks for her to do in the whole week. Which was putting shoes in the rack after coming back from various places, pressing the lever, pressing the flush down when the potty is done, because she wouldn't do that, and toys in the drum after playing in the whatever the basket was there after playing was over. And in the next column, you will see that she also could visually see that if she earns 2 stars, she is going to get gems. So for example, she comes in the whole day, she comes back home, she puts her shoes in the rack, and if her mother decides to give her 2 stars, right away she's going to get 2 stars and a gems. And if she played and put the toys back in the basket, she would additionally get 5 more stars or something like that. And she would get a 5-minute, 10-minute extra time on her favorite cartoon or something like that. So these are the things that you can create yourself as well, and which really, really work. Now, once these tasks are mastered, you can remove the tasks and add in multiple other tasks which you want to teach the child. Okay, so that way you can build in positive behaviors, teach positive behaviors to the child using star chart and positive reinforcement. Now, fading has to happen. This is what I've been talking about. Fading is basically gradually decreasing the amount and frequency of you producing reinforcement every time. A lot of times parents ask that, won't giving treats and foods and toys every time make them dependent on it? Like, you know, they will not do anything unless and until there is something which is given to them. So to avoid this situation, there is something called as fading that has to happen. And token systems and star charts help us do that. Okay, so initially you would want to give the child a reinforcement for his every correct behavior. Okay, but make sure that you eventually go to a place where the child does the right behavior when you tell him to, and you only apply it, let's say 2 or 3 times. So 2 or 3 times the child shows the correct behavior, and after 3rd correct behavior you give the reinforcement. After some days, probably you will want to switch to number 5. So 5 times he shows correct behavior, and then you give the reinforcement. So this is how you gradually fade it until the child actually learns to do it without the reinforcement. There is also something important that you should remember, that you should always add social praise when you are giving tangible food. And every time that the child shows the behavior, right behavior, you would want to give social praise, so that social praise is free. It doesn't cost you anything. So the child can learn to be okay with the social praise that he receives. Eventually, when the dependency on the reinforcement reduces, as the child experiences success, he will gradually, not want the reinforcements every time. So satiation is something that is another terminology wherein reinforcement, when it is used many times or there is an overdose of it, the child may not find it very much interesting and he would refuse to perform. So you need to remember that the reinforcement should not be saturating the child. Okay, so don't do abundance or overuse of reinforcement. There is another terminology called as differential reinforcement. This is basically a pattern or a pattern of application of reinforcement for selective behaviors. Here is when we choose which behavior we want to reinforce and which we do not want. So this is typically used in challenging behavior management. This can be another very long segment, so I may not want to go into details of it, but yeah, differential reinforcement is something that you would want to learn about. If you want to manage challenging behaviors, this is something that you should be considering. Okay. Why use positive reinforcement? As I've been talking about so many times, that basically it is a very harmless way of teaching. What happens normally is that you will all agree that learners will not learn unless the learning process is positive for them, is enjoyable for them. And it is something, the positive reinforcement is something that uses the strongest motivators as triggers. Uh, like it will put in a lot of motivation. The child would like to put in a lot of motivation in terms of learning these behaviors that you want them to learn. Think about this, that the child may not want to learn what you want to learn, but when you use positive reinforcement, that kind of acts as motivators, as triggers to positive behaviors. It is a very successful tool to strengthen the learned positive behaviors. So when you have taught the child the positive behaviors, then it might happen that gradually the curve will go down. But if you keep applying positive reinforcement correctly, the behaviors will be strengthened, and you can build upon those behaviors and take the child far away further. See, it doesn't cost much that way, because social reinforcement is also there, which you can pair with it. So it's very cost effective, and it's very easily available. You can use easily available materials that you have in your home that a child regularly uses. Okay. Now let's get to the specific populations such as autism. So with them, what happens is that, there is this article, very beautiful article, and I have put the link of this article in the resources. I would definitely want you all to go visit that link and read this article. What it tells us is that, I'll give you just a gist of it, that you can see the image below over here. So this is the brain of a typically developing child, and this is something with child with autism. So these are basically connections. These are neural pathways that that you can see. So these are different parts of the brain, and when information comes from outside, let's say an instruction, so it probably reaches at a particular point, and based on whatever the type of instruction it is, the type of job it is, there are certain neural pathways that get formed, and different types, different parts of the brain synchronize together to perform that task. And then the task is done, and that neural pathway disappears. But you can see over here that these pathways or these brain connections in terms of children or individuals with autism, they can remain synchronized for up to 20 seconds. What happens is that, so once you are given the instruction, the processing time and the speed is much more than the normal children. So you have given the instruction, the processing happens a bit slower, and you expect the child to work accordingly, and it's not happening, and bombarded with another instruction, next instruction. So what happens is there is this traffic jam that happens in the brain of children with autism, and they cannot function like that. So in the typical classroom, what is happening is that there are so many noises coming in, there are so many things happening around, and the teacher is teaching, and all these processes, basically switching between these processes, is not very easy for these children. So initially, that does not mean that they cannot be integrated into mainstream classroom. That doesn't mean it. But before that, they need to be prepared for it. And how we can do is through ABA one-on-one teaching using positive reinforcement, shaping, and prompts. What we do is we teach the child certain skills so that we can prepare them to be integrated into the larger classroom settings. So that's why positive reinforcement is very, very important with children with special needs, especially autism. Okay. Now let's come to this topic of how to apply reinforcements. Okay, there are these golden rules that I've created. The first one is immediate. The reinforcement has to be immediate. There is something called the 10-second rule. Okay, a reinforcement is only effective if it is delivered within the first 10 seconds after the child has shown the correct behavior. What happens is the child shows correct behavior and 10 seconds are passed, and you go around, do some chores, and then bring back the reinforcement. Meanwhile, something has happened. The child has done something negative, might be, and you bring in the reinforcement. So make sure, keep in mind that whatever reinforcement you're giving goes for the negative behavior that the child has done. And the child might not understand it. So accidentally, you might reinforce the negative behavior instead of the correct one. So basically remember that you have to apply reinforcement immediately. Only then it is effective. Okay. the other thing, as I have been saying, that pair tangible reinforcement or pair tangible rewards with social praise. High-fiving, saying good job. There are multiple ways you can do it. I am sharing with you a resource wherein 101 alternatives of verbal praise are there. So it's a beautiful PDF wherein you will get options, multiple options in terms of how you can actually socially reinforce a child. Okay, so go ahead, and when you want to, this is very helpful when you want to decrease the dependency on the tangible reinforcement. This comes in handy. So every time you give positive reinforcement, say good job, apply a lot of facial expressions, bring in a lot of positivity, give a lot of positive feedback, and this can be really helpful in terms of your further journey, in terms of reducing the dependency bit by bit on the tangible part of it. Now, what happens is that the third one, as I said, that it shouldn't be in the positive reinforcement item, or the reward shouldn't be easily available to the child. Otherwise, it will lead to saturation, which is the overuse or the abundance of it. See, if you're watching a movie, your favorite, imagine your favorite movie. Okay, if you have to watch it every day, you will be bored with it. So same thing happens with the child as well. So keep it out of reach of the child. Make it valuable so that the child will put in efforts in terms of getting that reinforcement. Okay. Then comes, the next part, that the reinforcement always has to be after the correct behavior, never before the behavior. If it happens before the behavior, it is bribery, not reinforcement. And you don't want to get your child into the habit, or your student into the habit of bribery. So what happens is that many times you will feel that, okay, the child does not know this. How am I going to, the child may not perform the task. How am I going to do it? Like, how am I supposed to produce reinforcement if the child doesn't do it on his own? That's okay. This is where the prompts part come in. So with your help, the child finishes the instruction, finishes the task, and eventually after the task is completed, even if it is with your help, then only after completion of the task with the help, without the help, after that you give the reinforcement. Otherwise, you will be building up a really negative habit, which you will be really, you might not want to do that. The next one is basically to be practical. You are not supposed to make any false promises. What happens is that you would want to promise your child only those things that you can provide as reinforcements. See, trust is very important. Unless and until you establish trust and the trust is not broken, that is only when the child will learn from you the next time you are sitting with him. Okay. The next part is desirable. The reinforcement should be desirable to the child. Many times what happens as parents or teachers, we feel that, okay, this item should be good, should act as a reinforcement for the child. But that might not be the case with the child. Also, one particular reinforcement may not act as a reinforcement for other child. So you need to consider that what this particular individual likes. Also, there will be this scenario that for a certain period the child likes for particular reinforcement, after some point he doesn't. So you need to be vigilant about it, that what is desirable for the child, what is producing motivation for the child, that should be used as a positive reinforcement. You can also weigh reinforcement. What you have to do is basically teach the child in this way that when the child applies a lot of efforts, probably you can give a lot of reinforcements. If the child has applied limited efforts, you can give limited reinforcements. So this way the child learns that, okay, if I put in more efforts, probably I can gain more. So that is how the child will put in efforts and learn positive behaviors. Also, the last and a very important point that I would like to tell is that you should always choose safe and healthy items, objects, and activities as reinforcements. Many times what happens is chocolates and chips and cookies are definitely liked by children, all children. But you may have to keep a check on it, that that's not really something that you would want to use for a longer time as reinforcement. So be vigilant about it. Keep a check that the reinforcements that you're using are safe and healthy for the child. All right. Now, this is another resource that can be a very good, helpful guideline for you. So all we have learned about reinforcements and everything, positive reinforcements, what to do and everything. Now, how to put it into practicality, how to actually teach particular behaviors, positive behaviors, using positive reinforcements. So communication is something which is, I think, all parents with special needs and autism are wanting to learn about how to teach communication to their children. So this is a resource. This is the link that I've put in the resources that you will be receiving. You can go on this blog and check about this blog, and they have given actually very good instructions in terms of how to use positive reinforcement in terms of increasing communication or teaching positive communication behaviors. So let's say, for example, I would like to say is that when a child, let's say, has a habit of pulling hands and guiding towards a particular item to ask for it. Now, this is a particular behavior which you might want to replace or with a positive behavior of communication of, let's say, pointing, if the child is nonverbal. So using positive reinforcement initially, we can teach the child to point at whatever particular object he or she wants. With your help, probably you can show how to do that, or you can show pictures on how to do that, or let's say you can also give a physical prompt wherein you make the hand and the fist and the pointing finger in such a position that the child is pointing at the desired item. So after you have given him prompts and help, the child has pointed towards the cookie jar. That's when you should come up with the cookies, and that should be the positive reinforcement. So what is the child learning from this thing? That eventually, after repetition of the trials of this particular series of behaviors, the child is learning that whenever I point to the cookie jar, I'm getting it. So probably and you don't reinforce the pulling behavior. You don't give the cookie after the child has pulled and asked you to give. So you stop that. And this is the behavior after which the child is getting the correct behavior, after which child is getting the reinforcement. And that's what the child is going to learn then, that, okay, I pointed and I get it. Okay, so there are multiple other aspects also over here. There are lots of prompts and types of prompts that can be used, which can come later, but just as an example that I wanted to put in front of you. So positive reinforcement can be used to increase communication. You can go ahead and look at the blog. This is the 101 alternatives on verbal praise I was talking about. The PDF has already been added into the resources form. So you can definitely go ahead and use verbal praise from here. A lot of positive non-verbal feedback should also come with every tangible reinforcement that goes with you. So these are the list of references and all the checklists and everything. I have also put in a checklist on, how to find out about reinforcers. Basically, it happens very naturally. It should happen very naturally. That whatever the child likes, you can make a list of it, and you can decide what items you want to give as reinforcers to what activities. But if you want to have a look at what other items can be used as reinforcers, so this is the checklist that you can go ahead and watch. So this is the article that I want you to read, definitely, on how basically the brain of an autistic person looks like and functions like, and why positive reinforcement should be used. Okay, so these are the additional references, additional resources. Positive reinforcement and ADHD, or disruptive behaviors, or oppositional defiant behaviors, and many other behavioral conditions can go very hand in hand. So once you learn how to adapt this way of teaching, or way of, let's say, interacting with your children, the positive reinforcement, the ABA principles, you will see that there is a lot of positive difference that is coming out from all the stressful scenarios that you are facing day to day. So in the classroom also, how you can use this was basically the video. All the videos I've listed here. So the difference between positive and negative reinforcement and all those things are there in the video. There is this part in terms of punishment over here, which I've not covered, and I would not like to get into it because it's a bit tricky. And it's not harmful. This is not something like corporal punishment or yelling or something like that. It is another technique, but it can be really tricky. So that's why
Hi,
we should
Tejashree.
really, yeah.
I think maybe we should wrap up and go to Q&A. There are
Sure.
quite a few
All
questions,
right.
so yeah,
So
let's
that's
go on
it.
to Q&A.
And Tejashree, maybe you want to try turning on your video again, if that works for our
Yeah.
audience.
I hope
Uh,
I'm visible also now.
Yes, you are very much visible. Thank you so much for the very informative session. And we will extend this session by a couple of more minutes, like 10-15 minutes. Let us quickly go through the questions that are being asked. I'll request you to keep your answers as brief as possible. So the first question in the Q&A segment is a very common one. Over 10-15 people have asked this same question, and it goes like, how to remove dependency on tangible reinforcements? What if the child develops a habit for the reinforcement being offered? This is being asked by Sushila, Sushma, Sandhya, Sri Bharani, and so many others.
Yeah, I think I have already covered this point, wherein you can definitely remove dependency on the tangible rewards or anything that the child has been used to as a reinforcer. So basically, the trick is that you gradually make the habit of producing reinforcement, let's say after 2 correct behaviors or 3 correct behaviors, and then gradually go ahead along with it, the fading part of it. So for the child to be assured, you can use star charts so that the child understands, okay, there is 1 star I'm receiving, 2 star I'm receiving, and I am, yes, after 3 stars, I am going to get a reinforcement. So that is how you can remove the dependency.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. So the next question is from Ravina. She says that her daughter is 9 years old and she wants you to suggest some non-verbal reinforcement ideas for her.
Okay, so what's happening over here is that the child is nonverbal and 9 years old. So there is an interesting part over here that reinforcement can still be used for older children, but you have to keep in mind the age appropriateness or the social context or the appropriateness part of it. You may not want to put a sticker on a 9-year-old person's child or 9-year-old child's hand, so that may not be appreciated. Instead, probably something that the child really appreciates can be put as a reinforcer, but for which she will have to work for, let's say, tokens of a set of 10 or 5, depending on whatever level or the child is able to do. So that is how you can apply reinforcers to even older children and non-verbal children as well.
Okay, great. So I hope that answers your question, Ravina. The next question is from Sakina. She asked, she wanted to know about application of positive reinforcements for academic improvement. How can we use it?
Yeah, so I have deliberately put in a lot of resources in terms of how it can be directly applicable in the classroom settings. Star charts is a very commonly used technique in the classroom setting. There is also something called as visual schedules. If there is a child with special need in the classroom, visual schedules actually help the child to understand how the child should go about in terms of his tasks and completion of the tasks and what he's going to get after that. So visual schedules is something to navigate through the activity towards completion of the task and the star charts is something that will assure the child what the child will get as an reinforcer after he's finishing the task in the classroom.
Sure. I hope that helps. Okay, so the next question is from Myla. She says that her son was diagnosed with ADHD. She wants to learn more as to how she can apply positive reinforcements to his condition.
Yeah, so particularly an article I have uploaded so that the parents can go and read about it. But meanwhile, I would like to suggest that children with ADHD and also parents with ADHD benefit so much from positive reinforcement and other behavioral techniques, ABA techniques. Since it is a behavioral manifestation, ADHD is, so when you apply positive reinforcement and it is natural that when the child is very hyper, a lot of stress may appear, yelling and negative part may come. So that is when the negative behaviors get accelerated. So when instead of that, when we apply positive reinforcement, you'll see a drop into your own stress levels as well as the child's stress levels. So yes, positive reinforcement can be applied with ADHD children and in similar ways that I have explained before. To get more information, probably I can definitely guide on it if more information is needed.
Sure. Okay. Now, Barnali Mohan is asking us that how can positive reinforcement help teachers, and especially how can it help to manage a child with, temper tantrums?
Temper tantrums, yeah. A lot of times it has been asked that temper tantrums or negative behaviors or challenging behaviors, how positive reinforcements can be applied to it. As I was saying earlier, there is something called as differential reinforcement and other techniques which come under challenging behavior modification, behavior management and modification. But for that, basically, we need to understand why the tantrum is happening, and that is something called as functional behavior analysis. And once we understand how to do that, we'll be able to apply the differential reinforcement techniques effectively and other techniques also. But meanwhile, what you can do is reinforcing every other positive behavior that the child is showing instead of the tantrums. And we can deal with the tantrums once the FBA, the functional analysis is done, and we can help the child to learn positive alternative behavior of communicating or dealing with that particular situation, and that can be reinforced. This is a bit technical, but this falls under a different part called as behavior management and modification.
Got it. Okay. I hope that helps and that answers your question. So this one is really an interesting one. The next one from Ma Louisa. She asked that she's actually saying reward is a form of reinforcement, just like tokens used in ABA. So how would we manage learners who are dependent on rewards? Sometimes they tend to rush their tasks just to be able to get the particular reward.
Yeah, now over here, in terms of producing reinforcements, you are in control of it. So basically, it's up to you that how the child's task performance has been. And as I said, only after correct behavior, only after correct response, you are supposed to give the reinforcements. So that is up to really up to you. If you feel that the child is lagging behind in terms of efforts, or probably is not being able to do the task or finish the task, you may provide prompts and other techniques in order to make the task in a successful completion of the task. So that way you can actually deal with this.
Got it. Okay. So the next question is from Anisa Sumarni. She's asking if you could elaborate a bit more on negative reinforcement, and is it okay to give the negative instead of the positive one?
Yeah, as I already said, that negative does not mean the quality as such over here. Negative is basically to be remembered as a mathematical term of removing something which is unpleasant, let's say, from the environment. There was another picture wherein the child was actually looking at the sun rays like this. So what happens in that picture is that probably there is too much light and the child is sensitive to light. And if through appropriate ways of communication, the child probably gives an indication to turn the light off or dim the light. So that is something that is taken as the correct response, and the light is removed. So that is negative reinforcement. The removal of the light is the negative reinforcement. So negative does not mean negative in terms of the quality of the word or the attribute. It's basically removal of something that is causing distress to the child, or probably removal of an item so that a particular desired behavior goes up. That's it.
Wow, that is an interesting piece of information there. Okay, so let's talk about the next. And dear audience, I know that all of you have sent us a lot of questions. Because of shortage of time, we might not be able to take all those questions, but we promise you that we'll be answering each one of your questions via email. So yeah, keep an eye on your inbox and you will find your answers there soon. I'll be taking the last two questions for the day. So the second one is by Anis Sumarni. He is asking how often we should do the reinforcer assessment.
how often we should do the reinforcer assessment. As I said, that if you feel that a particular reinforcement or the particular item that you have decided, which may be working previously but not working right now, that is the time probably is the, is something when you want to check on it. So you may want to bring in another reinforcement, another activity, and it is always better to use multiple reinforcements than just one more of it. So use a lot of it. Sometimes use activities, sometimes use tangible, sometimes use toys, sometimes use food. So all these things can be, brought into the picture so that, the child doesn't get bored of the whole thing.
Sure. Thanks. Okay, so I'll take the last question for the day from Aditi. She has a very interesting situation. She says, if an ASD child is singing in the whole class, even after a positive reinforcement is given, the child is given enough time to sing as well. Then how to make that particular child improve on this singing habit?
In this singing habit in the classroom.
Yeah.
Okay, now this again falls under behavior modification. There may be multiple functions of that behavior, which is like the singing behavior. So again, singing behavior is continued because it is reinforcing the child. Okay, it is pleasurable for the child, and we may want to find out other equally pleasurable or equally interesting activities that can take place of the singing. Probably the singing might be happening because of a reason that she wants to communicate something but she is not able to, and that is her way. Singing is her way probably to tell you that I'm overwhelmed, or I'm not be able to actually handle this noise that is happening in the classroom, because many times children with ASD do that. So that is their way of coping with the stress, and that is their way to tell about, not exactly tell as such, but this is their way of communicating, that this is something as an indication to us to understand that when the child is engaging into a self-stimulatory behavior, which is called as the singing to self, when it, even though there's many other things going on. So when the self-stimulatory behaviors occur, that is basically the sign of the child becoming overwhelmed, or the child has, child has become distressed, and that is something that you may want to check on it. So you need to check that whether the child is getting, distressed or overloaded with sound or noise or many other things, probably instructions. Maybe the child doesn't want to do a particular task, and that is why she's running off singing. So you will really have to, this falls under functional behavior analysis, this falls under challenging behavior management, this falls under behavior management and modification, which is a very crucial part of ASD and special needs children. So, and once we understand the function behind the singing behavior, there may be multiple as well, and we then decide what alternative behavior you want. So for example, if let's assume that this behavior is happening because the child is getting overloaded with the noise that is there in the classroom. So when the child is singing around, she is suffering from the noise levels. So that is the time probably you want to put in earplugs. So you want to teach the child to come to the teacher and ask for earplugs or the headphones, whatever, noise cancelling headphones. So once the child is taught to come and ask for the headphones, noise cancelling headphones, that is the right behavior. And now this behavior needs to be reinforced. Okay, this is where you apply positive reinforcement. Every time the child gets overwhelmed with the noises, she comes to you, she asks for the headphones, either via picture or pointing or actually verbally, and that is when you highly reinforce the behavior. And that is how you will probably see a difference, that after wearing the noise cancelling headphones, probably she will stop singing.
Sure. Thank you so much, Tejashree, for your very informative session, and also the answers. I hope the people who ask these questions, the answers might prove to be useful for them and also others. I could see a couple of messages in the chat window asking for the feedback link. So dear audience, we'll be sharing an email with you, as we already said, for the webinar resources. You can directly respond to that email, or rather reply to that email, and the feedback will be reaching to us. Thank you so much for being so considerate, and we would love to read your feedback, and we would love to improve the experience for you. Thank you once again, Tejashree, for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Before everyone leaves, one quick poll to know how we can improve this experience further for our audience, and what are the topics that they would like to hear from us. in the upcoming future? Right. And there are so many more questions coming in still in the chat window. Tejashree, I would like to inform you that you have this huge task of answering
I will
all
be
the
happy
questions
to.
of our audience, ma'am.
Glad to. Happy to.
Lovely, lovely having you in this session. Great. And so many of them are responding. Wow. And if I may read few of the testimonials for you right away, they loved your session. People are saying that this was a very informative session. People have shared their personal experiences, and they said that the information that you shared today might prove to be very useful for them. And these are the
Great.
direct messages that I'm reading live from the chat window.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Thank you so much, audience.
Thank you. Okay, looks like most of you have answered the poll. So I am going to end the poll now. Thank you so much, dear audience, for being a patient one. And we will get back to you soon with all the answers to the questions that you have asked. Thank you for